Cost reduction will be and remain the big trend in 2017. Fund managers will need to reduce the cost of manufacturing products, and they will need to reduce the cost of distributing those products to their investors. In this industry, most of the transactions between fund distributors and fund managers have been traditionally carried out by fax, by manual process and fax, which means, first of all, a lot of costs, a lot of risks, and a problem of scalability once there are peaks in volumes of transaction to cope with. Everyone has experience as a business traveler. When you move from one country to another, you have to get all different plugs to connect your smartphones, your computer, your iPads, etc. This is the same challenge that distributors and fund managers were experiencing in this industry, that everyone was using a different message protocol or communication method to communicate. So that's how we've come to this idea to create a universal messaging adapter, whereby we would just ask every participant to connect to our network using their choice of connectivity, and we would translate their message into the connectivity required by the receiver of the message. Once a transaction become automated, there is an opportunity for much more precise data and analytics on transactions and flows between distributors and fund managers. The fund manager will need to understand much better a new diverse universe of investors. And they will need to understand how they behave, how they invest. And by having more data, they will be able to tailor products to cater for these investors and monitor the trends of these investors. The regulators, depending on the countries, take a very different approach. So if we look at South Korea and Taiwan, for example, the regulators are actually at the forefront of the development of the online channels. They are the ones that have actually mandated those channels, their objective being to provide a cheaper option for a wider range of investors to be able to invest in those products. On the other hand, you have other regulators that take a more conservative approach, where they want to understand the risks and the benefits of these new channels, and then basically create the regulation around it before these channels can actually deliver. The first trend is cost reduction. In the context of low growth and low interest rate, fund managers have a challenge in terms of their profit margins. So they will need to find ways to reduce the cost of producing funds and the cost of distributing those funds. The second trend is if their existing client base, so basically the rich baby boomers, if they're going to lose margins on those clients and revenues on these clients, then they will, in order to expand their revenue, they will need to go and attract new investors. And the different trends in the industry show that there's a new generation of investors that are coming, a much more broader universe of investors that are behaving very differently from their traditional client base. And in order to attract these clients, they will need to develop the right services, and they will need to go through a digital transformation and potentially partner with fintech company that can provide the level of innovation that these customers require. And finally, the regulators will play a significant role in the future in this industry, as they will need to adapt the regulation to allow these new distribution channels to be able to operate efficiently.